So as we enter into the final two chapters of Ecclesiastes tonight, the author impresses upon us, the audience, the ideas of giving and remembering that nothing lasts forever. As we go through our text tonight, keep that in mind because that's going to be the overall arching theme and overall through line in this passage. The idea of giving and remembering that nothing lasts forever. So let's go ahead and read our text tonight and we'll dive on in. Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Give a portion to 7 or even 8, for you know that what disaster may happen on earth. If the clouds are full of rain, they empty themselves on the earth. And if a tree falls to the north or to the south, in the place where the tree falls, there it will lie. He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap. As you do not know the way the Spirit comes to the bones in the womb of a woman with child, so you do not know the work of God who makes everything. In the morning sow your seed, and at evening withhold not your hand. For you do not know which will prosper, this or that, or whether both alike will be good. Light is sweet, and it is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. So if a person lives many years, let him rejoice in them all, but let him remember that the days of darkness will be many. All that comes is vanity. Rejoice, O young man, in your youth, and let your heart cheer you in the days of your youth. Walk in the ways of your heart and the sight of your eyes. But know that for all these things God will bring you into judgment. Remove vexation from your heart and put away pain from your body, for youth and the dawn of life are vanity. Chapter 12. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. Before the sun and the light and the moon and the stars are darkened, and the clouds return after the rain. In the day when the keepers of the house tremble, and the strong men are bent, and the grinders cease because they are few, and those who look through the windows are dimmed, and the doors of the street are shut, when the sound of the grinding is low, and one rises up at the sound of a bird, and all the daughters of song are brought low. They are afraid also of what is high, and terrors are in the way. The almond tree blossoms, and the grasshopper drags itself along, and desire fails, because man is going to his eternal home, and the mourners go about the streets. Before the silver cord is snapped, or the golden bowl is broken, or the pitcher is shattered at the fountain, or the wheel broken at the cistern, and the dust returns to the earth as it was, and the spirit returns to God who gave it. Vanity of vanities, says the preacher. All is vanity. Throughout the book of Ecclesiastes, the author has pressed upon us, upon those who have much to lavish in these things and enjoy the lot in life that God has given them. He's very much impressed upon the rich to enjoy those things. If you have much, enjoy the much that you have. But here, he moves away from that and tells them to, yes, enjoy what you have, but share it with others. Give to those who are in need, but give the things that are good and necessary, but also give to many. Not as far as to be unable to take care of yourself and your families, but to give generously within your means to others. If we start off in verse 1, it says, Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days. Wait a sec. The author's telling us to give generously. This makes it seem like he is asking us to waste something like bread. If you were to take bread and put it into a lake, what would happen to it? It would dissolve eventually. It would soak up all the water and then it would break into pieces, or it would float to the bottom. If you ever fed ducks out of the lake, you throw them in there. If they don't snap it up real quick, those things get really soggy, really heavy, and drop straight to the bottom. Seems like a waste. The fish will get it eventually, sure, but seems kind of like a waste. If you do the same thing and put a piece of bread into a river, what happens? It doesn't quite get the chance to soak up all the water and then to drop to the bottom. It gets carried away. the end result's still the same. You lose the bread. So can the author be really telling the audience to waste perfectly good bread like this? In other words, can the author be telling them to waste perfectly good material of any kind like this? It seems like a wasteful act to do so. With the end of chapter 10 in mind, I think this is the key to revealing the author's meaning here. So let's read the last 4 verses of chapter 10 and kind of get a picture, because this is, again, like any other letter that we get or anything else in Scripture, this is one complete thought. This is not like the Synoptic Gospels where it's broken up pieces of story or any other kind of narrative. This is a letter. This is a thought, one big thought block. So chapter 10 would bleed right into chapter 11. So starting in verse 16, "Woe to you, O land, where your king is a child and your princes feast in the morning. Happy are you, O land, where your king is the son of the nobility and your princes feast at the proper time, for strength and not for drunkenness. Through sloth the roof sinks in, and through idleness the house leaks. Bread is made for laughter, and wine gladdens the life, and money answers everything. Even in your thoughts do not curse the king, nor in your bedroom curse the rich. For a bird of the air will carry your voice on some winged creature, or some winged creature tell the matter." And that brings us into verse 1 for tonight. "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days." The theme here is you get out of life what you put into it. In the examples given by the author in the final verses of chapter 10 leading into our text tonight, we see this very principle. If not for the sloth or the laziness, the roof wouldn't sink and the house wouldn't leak. Because the moment something comes up like this or you start to see these things happening, you would fix them. The roof's sagging a little bit. Oh, got to get up there and stabilize it. Oh, the indoor plumbing's not doing exactly what it needs to do. Then I need to figure out what the issue is. If not for laziness, these problems would not occur. It says, "Woe to the lands where the kings and the princes feast at improper times. But if they feast at proper times, the land is to be happy." If their kings are not doing what they're supposed to do, and they are not putting in the work of being the leadership, and they're feasting at improper times, woe to the land. The people should be careful with kings like this. But if the kings are feasting at proper times, doing exactly what they're supposed to do, then that is a happy land. The land is doing, or the land should be flourishing and prosperous. This also brings forth the idea you will reap what you sow. So this opening verse, "Cast your bread upon the waters, for you will find it after many days." This is the idea of investment. You are investing something into it. And one day you will get back your investment, is the idea here. For those of you who have ever had a small business or helped in the finances of small businesses, when you invest in something, you invest in a new product or invest in a new menu item if it's a restaurant, then eventually you'll get back your return. It's a return on investment. Eventually you'll get that. That's kind of the idea here. In verse 2, the author tells us how to invest our excess by giving not just a little, but a lot, and giving things of consequence. Giving things of consequence, things that actually matter, things of necessity. For we know not what disaster will happen next, and if that which we could have given is lost in that disaster, then what good was it to keep for ourselves? We're talking about a disaster that's happening in the Caribbean right now. If there's anyone that has any kind of wealth, like physical wealth, not money, but things of value that they could have given to help other people, but they were storing up for themselves, that all will probably be wiped away. So what good was it to begin with? Verse 3, we get an interesting way for the author to describe that life continues on despite us. But in verse 4, he scolds those who would find any excuse not to do anything. In verse 4, it says, "He who observes the wind will not sow, and he who regards the clouds will not reap." So the idea of this is, if you were to put it into a phrase or a statement, the wind is blowing too hard. We can't sow the seed today. It'll just blow it away. On a very windy day, if you try to put seed down, seed's really light, just carries it off. That's the idea of this individual here. It's too cloudy today. This would be the worst day to harvest our crop. It's probably going to rain. I don't know if you've ever tried. I'm not a farmer. I don't know if any people, has anyone raised by show of hands, has anyone else farmed before? Ryan, do you harvest in the rain? Why? Yeah. It's not a good idea to harvest in the rain. That's the idea here. And he who regards the clouds will not reap. If you're too busy worrying about the clouds and it's too cloudy outside, you're not going to harvest because it's raining. Let me flip this on its head a little bit. The rain's really coming down out there. Maybe we should stay inside and not go to church this morning. Or if I share the gospel with them, then they will think poorly of me. This is what the author is getting at. He scolds those who find any excuse not to do anything. We have examples in the New Testament of servant with the 10 talents, or servants of the 10 talents, where they were given talents, told to invest it, and told to bring something back. We have one who buries one talent and does nothing with it. Or am I thinking of a different one, Stephen? I'm all right, okay. My brain started to question me. But the one who buried nothing was scolded for doing nothing because he buried it and put it away, did nothing. So this is not a principle just found in the Old Testament, it's found in the New. You reap what you sow. You get in what you put, or you get out what you put in. If you put in nothing, you get out nothing. Cast your bread upon the waters, and you will find it after many days. If you don't put bread upon the waters, you don't get anything at all. You find nothing. You get no return. Now, this is not a prosperity gospel lesson by any means. You don't sow money into ministries to reap some benefit later. But God will bless you nonetheless when you do good things. It doesn't always look the same, but it could be, oh, I got a new pair of shoes. I had enough money to get a new pair of shoes. Or I got a good word from a brother today. So in day-to-day life, give everything you have for the glory of God. Hold nothing back, especially the gospel. Give what you can to others, but what greater gift could you give someone than the bread of life? You get out what you put in. In our final verses tonight, verses 11:7 through 12:8, they all kind of hold a similar thought process here. The rest of it can be something like this. Enjoy your youth while you can. And enjoy your youth while you are young, for the end is closer than you think, and everything is without value or meaning. Oh, it's bleak. But that's exactly what he's trying to tell us. Enjoy your youth while you can, because the end of your days is coming closer than you think, and things are without value or meaning. Chapter 12, verse 8 is the key to understanding pretty much this entire book. The vanity of vanities, says the preacher, all is vanity. You see that statement, vanity of vanities, all is vanity, throughout this entire book. We see it one more time here in verse 8 at the end of chapter 12, or in the middle of chapter 12. We've talked about the vanities of wisdom, self-indulgence, living wisely, toil, and literally everything. And these are just the topics that are headlines of passages in at least my Bible. The author does give us a little ray of sunshine before covering it back up in verse 7. Chapter 11, verse 7. Light is sweet and is pleasant for the eyes to see the sun. In verse 7, the light is sweet and is pleasant to the eyes. When going into a dark place, not like spiritually dark or figuratively dark, like, oh, this is just like a dark place, but like a literally dark place, like turn off all the lights. No light gets in. And when then you come outside into the light, is it pleasant? No. I don't know about y'all, but when I go out in the light after being in a dark place, my eyes burn because my eyes have to adjust, and it hurts. So what does he mean? So a lot of it's not as pleasant to the eyes. That mess burns. It's not pleasant. But I also don't know about y'all, but being in nature, when I'm having a bad day or a bad week, is a whole nother level of calming and refreshing. Because nature in its intended purpose was a good thing. It has been messed up and ruined by the sin of this world, but in its original form, it was good. The author is not speaking on the scientific level that being out in the sun is good for you. It is. Oh, it is. But he's talking about the enjoyment of the sun, the trees, the night sky, especially when there's no clouds. The general enjoyment of life, because all is vanity. Get some level of enjoyment out of it if it's all vain and all meaningless. That's pretty much the premise of this entire book. Find some level of enjoyment in life, because at the end of the day, it's meaningless. Find something to enjoy. Stephen likes to play golf. I like to sleep. Find some level of enjoyment. Hey, but you like golf more than I do, so I can't. We all like to sleep. I don't know about Jerry. I don't know if Jerry likes to sleep. Nope, Jerry's not a sleeper. Okay. How could that all be vanity? Something so beautiful. How could it all be meaningless and worthless? Well, verses 11:8 through 12:8 tell us exactly that. The author gives one last positive thought before delivering the gut punch of reality. Verse 8, walk in the ways of your heart and the sight of your eyes, but know that all these things God will bring you into judgment. This is talking about that live your youth and enjoy your youth while you can, because the things of your youth will bring judgment. Parents, I was hoping certain other families would be in here because of the slightly older kids, but we'll do with what we got. How many of you told your kids everything you've done in your youth? Why not? Don't answer. I know why. Because we've all been there. Kids. This is why one of the older kids. How many of you have told your parents everything you've done? Dana, Stormy, Cohen, Lily, Tyshawn.
Well, they're looking awful weird right now. Like every one of these kids are
Like they've done something wrong. Because you have. Why not? Why not tell your parents everything you've done? You know why? Why, Tyshawn? That's right, because you would probably get a spanking. And to some level, you're probably ashamed of what you did, whatever it was, right? Or you'd never get it back, that's right. But kids, listen closely. Living it up isn't all it's cracked up to be. My brother Ryan can tell you that. Chandler could tell you that. Mason could tell you that. Jacob could tell you that. Every adult in this room could tell you that. To some degree or another, we've all lived it up. It's not all it's cracked up to be. We will all one day, have to answer before God for what we have done. But this does not give us a license to do whatever we want, because we will get it right later. We are not promised our next breath, so why waste it on the things of vanity? And the bleakness because if you read chapter 12, verses 1 through 8, we get a very interesting start to chapter 12. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth, before the evil days come and the years draw near, of which you will say, I have no pleasure in them. It's a really good piece of advice. Remember also your Creator in the days of your youth. Wish I had that advice back in the day. Stephen, do you wish you had that advice back in the day? I say that as if the day wasn't a decade ago. It feels like it was forever ago. As our lives fade for one season to the next, we must remember God. Life is much brighter and less anxiety-filled with God at the forefront, is it not? There's a lot more enjoyment in the things that are so-called vanity when God is at the forefront of our mind, at the forefront of our lives. Every activity, everything we do, when we have the mindset of this is for the glory of God, is much sweeter. It is much more beautiful. But as the author always comes back to, all is vanity. Nothing lasts forever, so enjoy it while you have it, but don't let it be an idol. Give what you have generously and often. This church does a great job of that. This church is often given of itself to help others when they are in need, more than once. When a family is truly in need in our church, we help them out into the best of our ability within generous abundance that some of us have. And those who can give. But never to the detriment of themselves, to where they can't take care of them and their family. Hard times don't last forever. Much like everything is vanity and everything passes away, so will the hard times. Granted, they will more than likely be followed up by another hard time, but they will pass nonetheless. New ones may come, but the old ones shall pass away. The troubles of today are not the troubles of tomorrow, are not the troubles of next week, or not the troubles of next year. But in that, the peace that comes in between the storms. The old will pass away, peace will come. Oh wait, that's the whole point of the gospel. The old shall pass away, and peace will come. That is one of the greatest hopes that we have. That's why all is vanity. The author here, Solomon, for some, for most, for me, peace comes. Starts out vain, but it ends in peace. I think that's really what Solomon wants to get across here to his audience and to anyone that reads this, is that on this side of eternity, it passes away. It's momentary, it's light, but it passes away nonetheless. And it ends in ultimate peace for those who know God. So when we give generously with the understanding that this is only a short time. Peace will come. Take care of those who you can take care of. But rest in God and rest in his promises. Stephen, would you like to pray?